summers where I've been ready to get back into the swing. But right now, I'd like to welcome you back to EduAir after a summer-long break. And this week, we're talking about back to school, some of our favorite back to school activities, and what we do for back to school. I'm joined today by Donald Gately and myself. I'm Jason Dreyer. We're going to start the questions right away, and I will ask you, Donald, what is your before we get into the questions, if you'd like to introduce yourself and then give us your favorite back to school activity.
Well, I'm Don Gately. I am a middle school principal in Jericho, Long Island, which is in New York. I guess like mid Long Island. If you know anything about Long Island, it's yeah, sort of that midpoint. My school has about 660 kids in it. We have grades 6, 7, and 8. And yeah, it's a great school. Really happy there. Really some great people, great staff, great kids. Yeah, it's a really great super learning environment. So you know, really excited about being back to school. As principal, one of the things I like to do at the beginning of the year, now I have new 6th graders, and you know, I almost think of it like new teacher induction. I spend some time with the kids. Helping them understand what our culture is about, what makes us a bit unique, you know. Years ago when I first started, I used to use that as sort of my, almost like the code of conduct assembly. I do that with the 7th and 8th graders too, and it's sort of like a dad talk, you know, what the expectations are, what we, you know, bring that. It's sort of like I have to remind them of what the rules and things are, and I try to do that in as warm and as supportive a way as. Like I said, it's like a dad talk. Over the last couple of years, I've changed the way I do the sessions for the 6th graders, and like this year, I talked to them about the idea of a growth mindset because it's an idea that's very exciting to me. It's been transformative. I've spoken to the staff about it, and we've even spoken about it in some of these discussions. So I had them work in small. I had 2 classes together in the library. I showed them a few videos of. I showed them some videos that kind of activated their thinking on the idea of the growth mindset, and I did I read the book "Who Moved My Cheese" to the 6th graders, which in my view is like the elementary school, middle school, even high school version of the mindset book when you think about it. We read that together and we led a discussion on that. So that's one of my favorite back to school. Activities is for me to interact with my new 6th graders, get to learn some of their names, learn what they're about, and give them a chance to get to know me as the principal.
And my name is Jason Dreyer. I teach in Ashwaubenon High School, and I grades 9-12. Our school is about 1,100 kids, and just to jump right into the question, I think my favorite back to school activity really involves that first day of school. And do something with just the freshmen for the first half of the day. It's called Link. It's a program called Link, and it's really set up to familiarize freshmen with the building, to get them comfortable in our learning environment, and to make them feel like Ashwaubenon is home for them. And they get to do a whole bunch of activities with student mentors that they spend that first half of the day with, and then the second half of the day allows, I think, a lot of our teachers on the 90-minute block schedule, we get that half day, so we only have about 45 minutes with all of our classes, but we spend that 45 minutes just getting the introductions out of the way and getting some of the rules and regulations out of the way in the classroom stuff. And then the second day we can jump into some of that building the culture of learning, building the team building, really making your classroom your own. So I think that's probably my favorite back to school activity. And I see that Daniel's joined us as well. It looks like right now Daniel doesn't have a camera on, but can you hear us, Daniel?
Hey, Dan.
I think for right now, I think he might just be watching, and that's completely okay. We'll jump to that next question, which happens to be how do you build a culture of learning in your classroom or in your building. And you've already alluded to some of this, Donald, but I'll let you kind of keep on with that. What are some of the other things that you do specifically that maybe are unique to you or unique to your building to build that culture of learning?
Well, it's interesting because a teacher asked me, it's a teacher who's been in my school for a while, and he said, Don, I go back and forth. Should I hit the ground running on day one and start, teaching content, teaching process, teaching history on day one, teaching geography on day one, or should I, should I do the, front load the relationship building as well? I think it's so important what you said, Jason. I think relationships they don't just happen on their own. We have to build them in. My suggestion to him was, well, why don't you use a growth mindset? Why don't you've got 4 classes? Why don't you do it one way with your morning classes and a different way with your afternoon classes? And then, student voice. Ask them what worked best. Experiment. Why don't you, take some risks? So, I have to get back to him to ask him how that went. But I think that right there is one of the ways we build a culture for learning. I think, and maybe both are important. Spend time working on the relationships. Ideally, I'm a middle school person, and middle school philosophy sort of calls on us to combine the two, both the academic rigor and social emotional literacy. I think that the extent to which we can combine them, integrate them, strengthens both sides. We're not just coming. I think that was as one of my colleagues said, I think that was the mistake we may have made at the middle level for many years, where it was fun and games time, or it was all of the social emotional literacy piece, without enough of the academic piece. And I think that the best way to do it is really to combine them both and sort of link them inextricably. So like I said, we have some assemblies at the beginning of the year, and the teachers all are having team days. All of our middle schools are teams. All of our middle school classes are teams. So I think just about every team had a team day where they got outside in the field and they played team building games. And I saw more than 3 ice bucket challenges where the kids enjoyed dumping ice water on their teachers, and those videos are available on YouTube. And so there's been a lot of cool stuff like that going on.
Excellent. I think you answered the question beautifully as far as building that culture, and we've talked a little bit about the relationship part and how important that is. And I think for myself, building that relationship comes before any of the learning really takes place. As far as building the culture, a lot of that goes with modeling. You've got to model what it is to, for instance, disagree politely or agree politely and talk to people versus ideas. That's one of the most important things to build that culture of learning, to be, I guess, on the academic side. On the personal side, I just think it's so important to keep asking questions of the students, asking questions of the people that I work with, to build that community of again, I said it before, but I'll say it again, that community of home. And allowing kids to feel like school is home and it's safe and it's a place that they want to be. When it's a place that they want to be, and then you start working in some of those other skills about how to do things academically to model good learning, everything feels like it falls into place. And I love that feeling, and that's one of the things that really gets me excited about the beginning of the school year, is just when you see it fall into place the way that you want it to fall into place. It feels really good and positive, and it feels like you can make that next step into what you want to do in education. You can take yourself and put yourself in a position to challenge others to do the same. And I think it just feeds off of each other.
Yeah. I see Daniel's asking, I think, a very worthwhile question. How do you handle kids that aren't willing to work? And Daniel says he's an 8th grade teacher, and that can be a real challenge especially at the middle school level. I taught New York City for 10 years before I became an administrator. Then I became an assistant principal, and I know I worked with some. I worked in some challenging environments, and I think that I think you need to be willing to examine that. I think you need to be willing to examine both the work and the kids. I think we need to be willing to examine, what it is that. Yeah, I think we need to be willing to examine that. Individual kids who aren't doing work, why? I mean, we think about ourselves. I'm just convinced that learning is a human impulse that people want to do. I think kids want to learn. It's great. It's fun to learn things. It's fun to be transformed. I think, and I think I've had many kids that I didn't solve that puzzle. But I think the recognition that learning's like eating. It's not like people might say, I don't like this food. I don't like that food. I'm not, I don't know. Some people don't like spaghetti. Some people love spaghetti. But no one says, I don't like food. I never eat. I've never eaten a bite in my life. I don't like food. I just think learning is a human impulse. So I think, with kids that don't want to work, I think it's worth it for us to examine the work and examine the kids and give some thought to, where's that coming from? Why aren't they willing to do the work? Sometimes the answer is the work's too hard. Sometimes the answer is I don't see the value in it. Sometimes the answer is if I do the work, the other kids in the class will think I'm a nerd because, doing work in here is, or in school, just being good at school and playing school just doesn't give me status. And all those things, I think we need to examine and try to exploit in whatever ways that we do. And I know when I worked in the city, the best as I could, I tried to establish what my class was sort of a real safe place, and kids kind of like being there. And and it's hard, Daniel. I agree. It can be really challenging.
Yep, and Don, I agree with you right there too. I think one of the things when we talk about kids that are willing to work or not willing to work, I know that I tend to spend time reflecting a lot and beating myself up about that kid that doesn't want to learn, or that kid that maybe didn't have a great day and didn't focus on what they were supposed to do, or I'll get an assessment back and I'll see that 20 to 30% of my kids didn't do well on that assessment. And I start to wonder about what it is that I did that didn't allow for learning to take place. And so that's where I guess, start that reflective process of what happens when I don't have a kid that's willing to do the work. And then I try and go back and rework that, and then rework it again, and rework it again. And sometimes I'll ask the kids and just build that relationship again. What happened? Why didn't this work out? And sometimes kids are going to be more than honest with you and be able to tell you, I didn't do this, or I didn't understand this, and I didn't ask questions. And all of those questions kind of answer themselves. I'm going to move on real quick to the next question. Which comes first, introduction or instruction? I'm going to put pressure on both of us to make this one quick because I think we've answered it a couple of times already today. But I'll let you go ahead again first, Don.
Both. As a teacher myself, I've had years where I just jumped in the first day. I read a story. We started with it. I started with a poem. And we started work, and I think that communicates to kids that we're about work. We're about we're about learning. I think that's great. I've also not gotten into content for the first week at all, and I just spent a lot of time building community in the class. I don't know that answer. I think it's good to embed both in what you do all the time. What do you think?
I really like the introduction piece first. Just as this is who I am. I'm a person. I'm here with you. I know that I try and tell all of my students that I'm on their side. I'm not trying to build a culture where it's teacher versus student. I'm on their side. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them do well, and I'm there to do anything that I can to help them do well. And then from there, that instruction starts a slow process, but I like to make that process a little bit of a prove it on my end. I'm going to prove to you that I'm here to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm going to show you that I'm on your side by helping you out on this problem, asking you questions when we're reading this article. And when I do that, it kind of helps to build, again, that classroom culture and dovetail in. So the instruction I think for me has to come after at least a short introduction of who I am and what I'm all about as an educator. Um, and then that first week, kind of like you mentioned, I'm not extremely rigorous in content as much as I am rigorous in skills and what I want to take place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then our last question that we're brought to is, and Daniel, feel free to jump in at any point and ask more questions in the chat feature. But the last question that I have is, what's one thing that you are looking forward to this school year, either professionally or personally?
I forgot to tell you at the beginning, Justin, at the end of the summer, I defended my dissertation, and I became, I got my ED degree, my Doctor of Education degree, so that's been really exciting. Telling my wife on these last couple of days, I've kind of been brought back to earth a bit because I've had some crazy stuff going on, and I realized like that high that I had from I defended on August 15th. So I've been on a bit of a high, and we also just organized Ed Camp Long Island, and that went really well. I've just had so much, professionally, there's just been so much cool stuff going on in the beginning of the year. But I had a couple of those crazy kid parent things these last couple of days that really brought me back to earth. Sure. But I'm looking forward to lots of things. I have lots of ideas of doing new things, and as I said, I really have committed as a leadership challenge to push the staff to study, adopt, and really embrace the growth mindset, embrace helping kids understand that they learn through failure, integrate standards-based grading into that, and that's a bit of a challenge I've set for myself this year. I have an idea for local teacher chats, a little bit like what we're doing now, Jason. I'm going to do our Friday afternoon, we're going to call it personal best chats. And I'm going to, the first one, I have two real great hotshot teachers who do all kinds of tech integration in their classroom. Because I think I may have said this in other venues, I think that one of the real powers of this medium, I think, and here we are, we're in different time zones and we're connecting, and it's just fantastic. But I also think you push this stuff locally, and you give your community an opportunity on a Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock every 2 weeks to go on and to log on and see people from their own community who they normally see every day. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. I think I'm going to launch that next Friday with the first one, and then I'll bring different people in. We had a discussion about doing it at a district level, and we said, you know what, let's pilot it just at the middle school. You know, the PI director and I talked about it. She said, no, why don't you get it going at the middle school level? We'll see how it goes, and maybe we could expand it district-wide. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool. I like that. I think every school year I look towards just the energy that comes along and the new challenges that come along myself. I think it's great to be able to use this medium, Don, to do that locally, and I would love to see what that looks like. So if you're looking for any long distance local conversations, I would be interested in.
Oh, that'd be great. Too. Yeah.
But this year some things have kind of fallen together for me that I guess have been new challenges for me, and I'm really looking forward to them as far as more on the professional development side of things and being able to work with teachers in the area of instruction and in the area of technology instruction and taking on some more leadership roles. I actually connected with Daniel at a conference this summer where I was presenting, and through that conference I've actually lined up other presentations that I'll be doing for different staffs. So that's an interesting and exciting challenge for me, just being able to work with more teachers. I found that, especially at that conference that I was teaching at this summer, I enjoy teaching and working with teachers for the improvement of education. And I think that it was a little bit of a kick in the right direction for me to make that next jump into educational leadership. I don't know that I'll call it admin, because I'm not sure that that's, although I have that degree and have been looking at jobs in that direction, I don't know if that's fully what I'd call it. I would just call it educational leadership, and being
Yep.
able to be a much more dynamic professional,
For sure.
working with both teachers and with students, and that's been not only enjoyable, but it's been really, really exciting for me. You know, personally, I guess I'm looking forward, much like I haven't been able to congratulate you on the dissertation
Oh,
defense, which
thanks.
I did see. Congratulations, Dr. Gately.
That's right.
But I am expecting a third child, so that's personally
That's great, Jason.
that's way up here.
Yeah.
We didn't know that was necessarily going to be a thing, and we really gone back and forth, my wife and I. But that's coming in January, so that'll make some big changes at home and some
Nice.
big changes professionally too.
Yeah,
So,
as someone who can speak from experience, that's a big mistake. They outnumber you now, Jason. They
they
outnumber you.
do,
You're in big trouble.
and this will be my third girl plus my wife, so I'm really outnumbered in a number of different ways.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic
it'll
news.
be
That's
fun.
great. Congratulations. My wife Danielle will be happy to hear that. She's
Good, good,
both very fond of you. That's great. That's great, Jason. Awesome.
excellent. Thank you. And I think at this point, unless you have any other parting shots, Don, we can probably work on parting. We have used up just about all of our half-hour time slot. I think we'll be looking at doing this monthly this year instead of on a weekly basis. Monthly just seems to work a lot better for everybody that can try and get involved, depending upon what's going on. I know already I had a couple of people touch base and say I can't do it this week or this month, but it allows for a better schedule of things so that everybody can put their calendar and it's one Tuesday as opposed to every Tuesday.
Yeah, well, that sounds great, and I'll get more New York people, to pop on with you. And I think you're doing great work, Jason. And I understand the distinction between administration and leadership, and I agree. Yeah, I don't want to be an administrator. I want to be a leader, right? I don't want to be a manager. I want to be a leader, and it doesn't have to be the one with the name on the door. Yeah, I think you're already a leader, and I'm sure you do great in that role. So thanks, Jason. Thanks for organizing this, and thanks for joining us, Daniel. I appreciate you watching also.
Excellent. And then I'll sign off. Thanks everybody for joining, watching, streaming, or checking out sometime later on YouTube, checking out EduAir. Thank you both, Dan, for checking in on the chat box, and for Don Gately for checking in via video chat. Have a great day and take care.
Bye.